Right, so now I've collected my data and I've recorded it in my data table. So the next step is going to be to determine the averages and then to plot this data. So the average value here, we can get Google Sheets to do it for us. We say equals and we write the word average. And the values we want to average are trial 1, 2, and 3. And then we can autofill by getting it to average each row. The uncertainty in our 10 periods is going to be half of the range. And we can get Google Sheets to do this for us as well. So we just write equals, and then we open a bracket. And what we want to do is subtract the smallest number from the highest number. And so we go equals the highest, so that's going to be max of these three. And we're going to subtract from that min of those three. And then we want to put a second bracket, so now it works out the range. And then finally, once it's worked out the range, we divide that by 2. Oops, not 2, not 3, 2. Half the range. Okay. And now we push tick, and it looks like it's done those for some reason to the wrong number of decimal places here. So let's get some more decimal places here so we know that we're right. Okay, now, the uncertainty should always be to one significant figure. So I'm going to reduce this one to there. These three should all be reduced to that. And these two should also be reduced to 2 decimal places. And then the next thing is I want to express this to the same precision as its uncertainty. So I want to have the same number of decimal places on all of these. So these ones are all to 2 decimal places. So I think I can do them together like so. Okay, so now those values correspond to those values. Now, we wanted also to work out the period and the uncertainty in the period. Okay, the period is just going to be 10 times the period divided by 10. And we'll get all of those. And the uncertainty will be equal to the uncertainty divided by 10. We'll autofill those. And then we will reduce all of these. This one should be to 2. And all of these should be to 3. There we go. And this one should also be to 2. And these ones, should be to 3 decimal places. Okay, so now we have our periods and our uncertainties in the period. Now the important thing here now is what we're going to do is we're going to plot a graph of our data. This is not our final graph. This is just a graph to help us identify the relationship. So what I'm going to do is just take this column, copy it, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste special values only. That means that any calculations that have been done with those are being ignored, and I'm just going to get exactly the same values without it trying to figure out any other kind of calculation. And I'm going to here paste the values only. In fact, I'm going to just move this down to here. Okay, so this graph doesn't need to be accurate. I mean, it needs to be accurate, but it doesn't need, we're not going to be using it for any analysis. So I'm going to just take this little mini data table that I've made, copy it, and then I'm going to go to NZ Grapher, which is an online simple graphing software. And I'm going to start using it. And then the first thing I'm going to do is just go data, import from clipboard. And there we go, we have our mass and our period. The next thing I want to do is to choose a graph type, and I'm going to choose scatter. And then my variable 1 is going to be mass, my variable 2 is going to be period. And there is our graph. Now you'll notice that it doesn't start at 0, 0, which makes it a little bit deceptive to look at this. I can change this. If I go down here, can I? I can't do it there, so I'm going to have to just check here, more options. So scatter graphs, I want to go min x is going to be 0 and min y is also going to be 0. And then I want to somehow click update graph there. And now we can see a little bit better what the graph shape is. And it looks like it could potentially be a straight line, but I know that it's going to be a square root relationship because that's what was given to me in the task sheet. So if you go back to the task sheet here, we know that it should be a square root relationship, which is a parabola on its side. And if we look here, the relationship looks like it could potentially be a parabola on its side that goes down to 0 here. So I'm reasonably happy with this. So now what I can do is to take this, copy the image, and then go in here and raw data graph. And this graph is not marked, so you don't need to fret too much about the labels and things, but I'm going to stick that graph in. And underneath it I'm going to write the graph of the raw data indicates that this is probably a square root relationship. Okay, we should probably be a bit more specific that the relationship between period and mass is probably a square root relationship. So we will take the square root of the mass to get a straight graph. Okay, now I noticed here I had a gap here for raw data table. I can just take that straight from here, like so. I might just add some borders to it to make it look pretty. And then maybe something to indicate that these are the headings. I could do something like this. I could make the writing white and the background black, for example. Alright, now I'll take this raw table, copy it, and put it in here. I'm going to paste it unlinked so that my changes don't appear in there. And does the formatting look okay? That's a bit ugly, so maybe I can slightly shrink this one and then slightly shrink that one. Maybe a little. There we go. That looks a bit better, except I spelled uncertainty wrong. Okay, so there's my raw data table. Now I've used this graph to identify that it's a square root relationship. So the next step is to sort of manipulate the data so that we can get a straight line relationship and therefore an equation. So I'll do that in the next video.